Yeah, great to meet everybody. Thanks to all the listeners and for the opportunity to present today. So, just to introduce myself and Parcel Perform for those of you that have not heard of us before, I'm Garth Stapleton, Head of Sales at Parcel Perform for our Northern Europe region. Parcel Perform is a global AI-driven experience platform, delivery experience platform. Essentially, what we do is we help e-commerce retailers reduce their customer acquisition costs by improving AI visibility and AI shopping trust factors within the delivery experience. So, super interesting space to be operating in right now, given that retailers are really seeing a massive shift. And I think the sort of big question that all the retailers are operating in right now is, how are our customers finding us right now? Are we sort of working through the traditional SEO sort of avenues, or are we moving towards the AI shopping agents, et cetera, et cetera? So, yeah, 5 key things I want to cover today. Andy, if you can move to the next slide for me. So just to give a bit of context to these 5 things, I think the shift that we're talking about here is the whole conversation around AI shopping agents, particularly with ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, etc. And these are really becoming sort of the new storefront for e-commerce retailers. So, when customers ask ChatGPT or Gemini, find me a sustainable sort of active wear for fast UK delivery, these type of agents are really making the recommendations instead of showing just 10 blue links for customers to jump onto and do their own sort of research. So the big question that's sort of out there at the moment is, are you visible to these AI agents? How visible is your brand? How visible are your products, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of want to talk a little bit today around that. We'll sort of dive into why becoming visible with AI commerce is super important. We'll then walk us through and walk you guys through sort of what are the UK consumers doing with AI at the moment that I think is really important for us all to sort of be aware of. We'll talk about why do consumers trust AI shopping agents so much and what's really sort of made that shift. We'll dig into a little bit into sort of the 4 main pain points that e-com retailers are discussing with us at the moment as a business. And then lastly, we'll sort of unpack what the big AI gap is that we're seeing, specifically relating to brand dissonance, which is the front and back end piece. So Andy, if you can jump to the next slide for me, thanks. So the big question, why become visible with AI commerce? I think there's a couple of really important points here for brands and retailers to take note of. The first one is really to get your products recommended first. The big thing that we're seeing right now is that the point of intent has changed. Where it used to be, sort of consumers jumping onto a website doing their own research on product, they're now engaging with AI before they even reach the website. And so those conversations are taking place way before they even thought about your brand or product. So getting your products recommended first on AI agents, as opposed to the traditional SEO, which is in decline, as Andy has shown in some previous slides, where traffic has kind of remained stable, but conversions aren't necessarily following the same trend. That's typically down to the SEO sort of becoming a little bit of old school, and geo and generative optimization searching is now becoming the new way of doing things. So you kind of want to get your products recommended first by AI agents, and that's really important. The second thing is really focusing your marketing on AI commerce prompts. And what we've seen a lot with retailers is they're starting to move away from just doing ad search or Google AdWords or the typical sort of social media search criteria and citations and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying those are not important, but what we are seeing is how retailers are starting to make a move towards optimizing the AI presence across their brand. And that's really getting products and channels and their AI trust signals to capture the high intent traffic through AI prompts. And a lot of that has to do with, are they visible to AI in the way that the prompt is allowing consumers to engage with their brands in a meaningful way? And it's really important. The third reason why becoming AI visible is important is because you're going to turn all the operational, elements of your business into marketing assets. So that's really influencing, AI ranking and recommendations by translating all your post-purchase performance metrics into trust signals that drive AI visibility and sales. And as Jordan was speaking now about returns, that's one of the biggest trust factors that AI takes into account when recommending brands and products are things like returns policies, returns timeframes, um, all the elements that sit behind the scenes that brands don't necessarily associate with AI visibility. So really important there. And then fourthly, it's to fix operational issues to boost your visibility as a brand. And that's pinpointing those post-purchase operational friction points that are hurting your customer experience, like customer reviews, customer notifications. Are brands only relying, for example, on carrier tracking pages as opposed to having their own branded tracking page? What does ChatGPT find about Trustpilot and all the different review platforms that brands can have those information points on? So really important with that. And if you can move to the next slide. So just to quickly talk about what UK consumers are doing with AI at the moment, and this was really important for us, and we've been through this with quite a number of brands over the last 12 months. Really interestingly, last year, Klaviyo put out a survey or a paper, and currently, 80% of UK consumers are using AI tools for online shopping or product research. Now, that's a massive shift. If you compared that to 2 years ago, that probably would have been around 30%. So in the last 24 months, there's been a massive spike in UK consumer behavior moving towards using AI and generative tools to do their shopping or at least recommend products and brands to them. Underneath that, you've got generative AI use. So 50% of UK shoppers at the moment are using tools like ChatGPT when shopping online. And it's not necessarily to make the purchase per se, but it is definitely starting to have that generative conversation. It's starting to engage with consumers in a more intentional way. And that's having some significant spin-offs into things like cart conversion rates, the time that consumers spend on websites, et cetera, et cetera. On a daily basis, 40% of UK consumers are using AI search tools to discover, evaluate, and choose brands. At the moment, 35% of UK consumers use AI to shop, and that's specifically starting to move past just the search stage and move more into a buying phase, move more into an actual intentional phase of wanting to purchase products. And really interestingly, that's had a 39% increase year on year. So really interesting to see that trend. What was a big one for us was the trust for recommendations. And I think 58% of UK consumers currently are happy with AI shopping assistants recommending products. Now, to my previous slide around turning all those post-purchase elements and metrics into trust factors, AI is really starting to become that gatekeeper where it's no longer just looking at single word searches. It's now taking into account all of those post-purchase metrics and performance points and using those in the recommendations to influence shopper behavior and consumer insights around products and brands that they're searching. And then interestingly, 28% of UK consumers are already at the point where they are happy for AI to automatically make purchases without their permission. And I think recently we've just seen that ChatGPT's launched its payment platform. So things are definitely moving in that direction, which is super interesting. The value for retailers in this, we've seen some brands reporting up to a 1,000% increase in website traffic. And that's just because it's removing that single source revenue generation mindset. It's moving into the multi-source, which is allowing multiple AI agents and platforms to recommend their product because they're visible to multiple AI agents. Cart conversion rates are potentially doubled. Consumers are spending 23% more time on websites. It's turning the actionable data into brand trust. And the key to the success with AI commerce, really sits in the post-purchase experience that I've spoken about earlier. And if you can move to the next slide. So a key conversation here that we've started to have with retailers a lot is just around some of the pain points that we're starting to uncover with retailers in this space. The four main conversation topics that sort of center around challenges that they're facing is, first of all, around visibility. So a lot of brands are saying we don't really understand what it means to be visible. And the impact of that is really that they're losing a percentage of their future revenue that flows through AI platforms. So relying heavily on the SEO, at the moment is traditional. It's the way it's always been done. But AI commerce is now it's the new kid on the block. And so I think becoming visible to AI commerce is really going to unlock, future revenue for brands in ways that they haven't yet sort of discovered. The second one is that they don't really understand how they compare with rivals. What's really interesting about AI commerce is that it gives you the ability to externally compare your brand and product visibility with your rivals in the industry. And so the impact of not knowing how you compare at the moment is that there are brands out there at the moment that are really moving along the AI commerce journey very quickly. And so if you're not understanding, how you compare, your rivals are invisibly winning your AI customers, which again is just market share that you're losing. Thirdly, a lot of brands say to us that we're not quite sure how to unlock new customer demographics. The impact of that is that they cannot access any untapped demand. And when we look at some of the graphs that Andy was showing earlier, specifically around traffic and things like that, there's a lot of untapped demand in the AI space right now because there's different demographics that SEO typically wouldn't necessarily uncover unless you're spending a lot of money to try and unlock and uncover those demographics. But AI kind of gives you that access and that reach almost immediately. And then obviously a lot of brands say that, when they've started to engage with AI commerce, they've experienced a bit of brand dissonance, which is really, they've got a front-end brand promise, but the back end isn't necessarily meeting that. And the minute that they've started to increase the website traffic through AI commerce, their CSAT and customer, service departments are under constant pressure. So just some pain points that, I have no doubt that a lot of brands listening to today's webinar would be experiencing. Andy, you can move to the next slide. And then just quickly, why do consumers trust AI shopping agents? I think this is really important. I'm not going to go through all of these, but just some back-end post-purchase metrics and sort of, real important areas that LLMs are starting to read when producing feedback and recommendations on products and brands to consumers. And so really our recommendation to retailers is to start thinking about how you can connect the AI commerce piece in the front end to that whole back end post-purchase element. And are you looking at that to create the trust factors to drive website traffic through the AI commerce platforms? So really important for that sort of visibility. Andy, you can go to the next slide for me. So lastly, I just want to sort of talk about the brand dissonance piece that we're talking about. And this is really the big AI gap that we experience with our consumers. So in the front end, you've got your AI commerce visibility. It's really about your brand promise. It speaks about the brand visibility, the product dominance, the channel preferences. What does your checkout EDD look like? Is it dynamic? Is it static? Et cetera, et cetera. A brand can have a great promise. They can talk a lot about their product and sentiments on the website to attract customers. But really, the minute AI gets involved, the dissonance starts to happen if the back end has a really poor customer experience. So if your delivery notifications or your returns experience, or you've got high WSMO, or you've got bad customer reviews, or your carrier SLAs are not really performing the way they should be, AI reads all of that and creates trust factors that create a disconnect between what you're saying in the front end versus what the back end is actually doing. And so our recommendation to brands is really to work hard at fixing that, because if you're serious about going the AI commerce route, what influences the gatekeeper the most is the back end post-purchase elements that are driving those trust factors for brands and retailers when recommending products and brands to consumers. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope this was really interesting. Get in touch with us if you want just a sort of a visibility assessment. We'd be happy to do that for you. And that's really interesting for you as a brand to see not only where you compare to your rivals, but also how visible are you to AI agents.